the summer, just actually 2 weeks ago, my fiance, Michelle, and I just got married, so yay. So I was just going to use this as a little bit of an avenue to talk about how we navigated COVID in order to plan what ended up really being our dream wedding despite the circumstances. So basically, before the pandemic, we'd had everything more or less planned, everything was booked, everything was more or less ready to go. Uh, but then March happened, and at that point, we were thinking, okay, like we will still be okay. Like it's still months away. It's still months away. But then, as it crept closer and closer and closer, we started to realize, oh, okay, well, we have to reevaluate our plans and kind of decide if we're still doing it, how we're still doing it. My husband and I, we both come from science backgrounds, so like particularly like in our minds, everybody's safety was paramount. So we decided, okay, well, if we're going to do this, we really need to do it as safely as possible and really seat people in a distance style, in a social distance way, but also kind of balancing risk and the fact that people are still coming to a wedding. So, uh, yeah. So, one of the big things we ended up having to do, and I would say definitely the biggest, uh, I guess, downsides, which turned into kind of like an upside in a way, is we really had to winnow down our guest list. So our guest list, originally we had intended about 100 people. What we ended up with was about 35 people. So it was definitely, there were a few awkward conversations and emails that went out to extended family saying like, hey, I know you're invited to this wedding, but because of COVID, we really had to scale back. But ultimately, the day that we had was absolutely beautiful. Juliana was there. Aiden, who presented earlier, he was there. He was actually a bridesman. So thank you guys. And we, one big thing too that we also had to change is kind of how we would run the wedding reception. The wedding reception was like very similar to what other weddings would be. However, we weren't allowed to dance, and everybody had to be seated all the time, just to make sure everyone's safe, to make sure everybody, um, stays within their bubbles more or less. So that meant just a little bit more planning. That was really the main thing. It was just a little bit more planning. So what we ended up doing is instead of dancing in the evening, we decided to do a Jeopardy about Michelle and and the wedding in general, which was actually a lot of fun. Everyone seemed to really enjoy it. And then we just kind of devolved into beer pong, which is inherently socially distant. So and that worked out really well. Everybody kept their masks on. Everyone was very responsible. And by that time, it was late in the night, and there were less people too. Um, but it was a lot of fun, and of course we did beer pong in the safe way where you put water in the cups, not beer. You don't drink from the cups you're throwing the balls into. But that was definitely a lot of fun. And I think some of the little quirks that ended up being at our wedding are really ultimately what's going to make it memorable and endearing to ourselves and hopefully to our loved ones and guests. And yeah, beer pong at our wedding. We were running out of ideas. We're like, what does everyone here enjoy? And it was a young crowd. So, for safety, we had a largely young crowd. So, like a lot of millennials. And we thought, okay, yeah, beer pong. That's what we all do when we hang out sometimes. So, like, let's do that. Um, so yeah, it ended up being like an absolute ball. So Ha ha ha. But but yeah, so we had a wonderful time. Everybody was contacting us afterwards saying that they had a great time and that they felt safe, which was very, very important to us. And big, big shout out also to the venue. We did it at Lago Bar and Grill by Dow's Lake, and the Blessed Sacrament Church in the Glebe. It was just, it was beautiful, despite the pandemic. But there was so much, so much love. It was wonderful.